When rubbing your fat into your flour, make sure you've cut the margarine or the butter up into small little cubes before you start to rub in, and this will make it a quicker process. When you're rubbing in, make sure you're using your fingertips so that you're not going to melt the margarine quite as much. The palms of your hands should be clean once you're finished rubbing in, and you want to try and lift the mixture out of the bowl a little bit to incorporate some air into your mixture. Once you get towards the end of rubbing in, you want to make sure that you're giving the bowl a big shake, and any big lumps that are coming to the surface, you keep rubbing those in. If it's a lump of flour and margarine, then you don't need to keep rubbing in. It's just if it's big lumps of margarine. And finally, your mixture should look like breadcrumbs once you're finished, so there should be no big lumps. It should be a nice fine consistency. Once you have rubbed your fat into your flour and your mixture looks like breadcrumbs, you're now ready to form your dough. You want to make sure that you're using cold water. When you're making pastry, you want to make sure everything is kept really cold so the fat doesn't start to melt. So what you're going to do to begin with is add in 2 tablespoons of cold water into your rubbed in mixture, and then you're going to use a round bladed table knife to mix and cut through your mixture, so you're cutting that water in. You're then going to start adding in half a tablespoon of water until it starts to form a dough. Once it starts to clump together, you then want to use your hands to push it together like a dough that is shown in the video there. You're then going to knead it really lightly, so you're taking that outside edge and you're pushing it down and folding it over. And you just want to knead a couple of times, about 5 to 7 times maximum, until it starts to form the dough. Once you've formed your dough and it's chilled in the fridge, you then want to flour your work surface. If you don't have a flour dredger at home, just put a little bit of flour into a sieve and dust it onto your work surface so your pastry doesn't stick. It's important that you put a little bit of flour on your pastry and also on your rolling pin as well. If you don't have a rolling pin at home, then you can just use a glass bottle and that will roll it out as well. When you're rolling out, you want to make sure that you keep moving the dough 45 degrees. So roll up, down, and then turn it round, up, down, turn around until you have rolled your dough out and it's about half a centimetre thick. You then want to cut out your pastry circles. Don't worry if you don't have a pastry cutter, you can use a glass or a mug instead. Once you've cut out your pastry circles, you're now on to assembling the empanadas. So when you're assembling them, you want to dampen the edges of your pastry circles with a little bit of water or some beaten egg, and this is going to act as the glue to stick your pastry together. So you're going to take 2 teaspoons of the empanada mixture and you're going to pop that into the centre of your pastry circle. And you want to cut your hand slightly, and that just means it's easier to put the filling in. You're then going to go round about the edges of your pastry circle and push them down, and the water or the egg is going to act like glue. You might need to go over a couple of times just to stick it together. Don't push it down too firmly because you do want to keep a nice circular edge. And then to make sure that it's really stuck together, you then want to crimp the edges with the edge of a teaspoon like in the video here. You can use the edge of a fork as well to crimp the edges. And that's your empanadas done.